Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there. Oops. Hello there. And I'll use my more dulcet tones. Hello there. Welcome to the Lynn Cullen Live program, podcast, whatever the hell it is. And it is June 3rd. That can be said with a measure of certainty. Anything else on this program, it's difficult to say, to claim certainty, I would think, generally when we're speaking. I came upon something today that I want to talk about because I was so appalled and blown away and made me have to recalibrate where this person stood in my sense of, on the human continuum of good and bad. And I'm always ranting, people are complex, and here's a case in point, boy. But I did not know this, and I don't know why I didn't know it, but I want to tell you the story in case you didn't know it as well. This is this information has come up again. Apparently it was known and I missed it. Come up again because one of the things that President Obama did when he was in Vietnam, just, a week ago, was to announce the opening of a new university in Vietnam called Fulbright University. It will be a private university. It will be the first independent private university in Vietnam. And there's a lot of American money behind it. The person who has been already put in place as essentially the president of that university certainly would seem to be well qualified, since he was the president of another university in New York City for a number of years, the New School in New York City. I'm talking about a man who was a governor, a U.S. senator. I'm talking about Bob Kerrey. Some people get him mixed up with John Kerry. They are not related. However, both are tall, lanky Democrats. Both have years of public service. Both were decorated veterans of the Vietnam War. And it is Bob Kerrey who apparently has been tapped by whoever is behind this university to lead this new university in Vietnam. Now, and in fact, he and John Kerry were both there, I guess, at this announcement. John Kerry, obviously, is the Secretary of State journeying with the president on this historic visit of a first American president since the unpleasantness. By the way, the Vietnamese, we call it the Vietnam War. That's not what the Vietnamese call it. We call it the Vietnam War. You know what they call it? The American War. Interesting, huh? Yeah. A little difference in perspective. Here's the thing that I heard about that I had never known before. Bob Kerrey, who was, by all accounts, a good governor, a very good senator, an excellent president of a university, who famously had as a girlfriend a movie star for some time, whose name I'm blanking on. She wasn't a movie star. I'll call her an actress. And I'm blanking on her name, although I can see her. And he lost a leg in Vietnam. So he has a prosthetic leg. Okay, now I'm going to tell you what I didn't know. Apparently in 2001, both the New York Times and 60 Minutes were both working a story, and it was about him, and it was about him during Vietnam. And they were about to break this story when he thought, I better come clean here. And so it was 15 years ago that Bob Kerrey admitted that he was the leader of a team of Navy SEAL commandos. In fact, I believe they were called Kerrey's Commandos. Kerrey's Raiders. He was gung-ho. He was very good at what he did, apparently. He and his team led an assault in the Mekong Delta in 1969 that killed 20 civilians, including 13 children and a pregnant woman, and they were not killed from afar. It was not like bombs were dropped on them. They were stabbed, throats were slit, they were killed by his team. He had been silent about this. He had falsely reported, this happened all the time, he had falsely reported to his superiors that his team had killed 21 Viet Cong guerrillas. Because after all, we know from those days, you killed a Vietnamese, a North Vietnamese, they're all Viet Cong, even when they're 3. He was given a Bronze Star. At the time, 15 years ago, he says it was not a military victory. It was a tragedy, and I had ordered it. I have been haunted by it for 32 years. Why would we think that Bob Kerrey was a good guy to head this university in Vietnam when he slaughtered, or on his order, Vietnamese civilians during the American War? The Vietnamese have been extraordinarily forgiving and willing to reach out. But this seems a bridge too far. And here's what one lawyer in Ho Chi Minh City said. Please tell me the name of any prestigious university in the world where a killer, in cold blood, a killer of women and children, could be the president of that university. I can't believe he wouldn't step down immediately. He is now saying if there appears to be a problem with this appointment. Sorry, guy. I don't think so. You know, we think of Vietnam and that war as it so ripped this country apart. Oh, poor us. We lost 58,000 young Americans in that war. You know what the Vietnamese lost? Our death toll is like piddling compared to theirs. We killed about 3 million of them. And then we send one of the killers over to be... I don't care if he's done a lot of good stuff, but he wasn't going to own up to this until the media got wind of it. And he owned up 15 years ago, but I somehow missed it or repressed it, or I don't know. So although he has said that he would resign if he felt his role was jeopardizing the American-Vietnamese joint educational venture, I think that's a given. Just stop. Whose friggin' idea was this? There is some congressional financing that's gone into this university. His primary job would be to raise more money and keep money coming in. The university isn't accepting students until next year. But when you read what has been said of what happened that night, it just is. I mean, it is war. They're at war. But... so he's leading his Kerrey Raiders into this little village in the Mekong Delta, February 25th, 1969. They were to hunt down a Viet Cong leader who was believed to be in this little village. Under cover of darkness, they approach the village, but encounter a hut that they were not expecting to have there. They had some, I guess, reconnaissance that had left this hut out. And to avoid giving away their position, they entered the hut and killed the 5 people who were asleep there. They slit the throats of an elderly couple and then stabbed their 3 grandchildren to death. Then they went further into the village. Kerrey has said that someone fired on them, and they returned fire, and in the confusion killed all those civilians. However, another commando who was on his squad, a guy named Gerhard Klahn, has said that's not what happened. He said the SEALs rounded up the women and the children and then debated what to do. You see, the Viet Cong leader wasn't there. But they now had given away their presence by entering the village. They round up the women and the children and all these other innocent folks. And they talk amongst themselves while holding these people in terror. What are we supposed to do with them? Jeez. We can't take prisoners. But if we let them go, they're going to alert the Viet Cong. So according to this guy's testimony, Kerrey gave the order. Open fire. The testimony of one of his commandos included this: the baby was the last one alive. There were blood and guts splattering everywhere. There was one survivor of the village, and his account matched the account given by the commando, not Kerrey. I want to say Deborah Winger. I think that's the name that finally came to my head. Excuse me for sniffing in your ear. So, a lot of horror happened. And I know war does nothing good to anybody. War does horrible things to those who wage it, to those who are in the line of it or caught in the middle of it, to those who support it, to those who but I'm sorry. You don't then send him back to lead this university. Even if he since has done everything he can in his position as a senator and an educational leader to make amends. I mean, he's lived a good life since. I don't know how old he was then, but he's sort of my age, I think. Can't be much older than me. So he would have been in his early 20s. I don't know. So there you have it. I didn't know that. And maybe some of you don't even remember Bob Kerrey, but I always did because I always liked him. And this is just... it was like a sucker punch today, man. Larry is reminding us that the movie, the documentary, The Brainwashing of My Dad, is showing tonight at that former church on the corner of Negley and Stanton in Highland Park at 7:30. And, yeah, go. It's free, although they're going to ask for a little bit of a donation, and Celine and I are intending to go. So, this is, did I say what the Brainwashing My Dad is about what happened to one woman's father, a kind gentleman, until he started listening to right-wing radio and watching Fox News and became this angry, just obsessively angry human being. And I've read quite a bit about it, and I understand the director is going to be joining the crowd on Skype, probably say a few words. The director being the daughter of the man, her dad. Okay. Well, that unhappiness said about, Kerrey, I had to share it. I don't know. There's a few things in the local paper that gave me pause. Did you see, if you haven't seen today's Post-Gazette, take a look, because there is one, you see this? There are 5 pages of that tiny print, and on all those pages are the names, possibly your names on here. They give the zip codes, and it's interesting because they're just some zip codes. Okay, zip codes are 15206. I used to have that zip code. That's East Liberty and parts of Shady Side-ish, and yeah, I used to have that zip. So, and it's 15212, Anyway, 15221. Isn't that what we are? No, 221 though, I think is downtown. 235 and 236. And it says here that every single person whose name is on this page could have money that they forgot they had. I'm just telling you. I checked for my name. It ain't there. This is money that could have been, you forgot it, uncashed checks, certificates of deposit, abandoned bank accounts, safe deposit box contents, recovered stolen property, life insurance policies, who knows what. If you want to go learn more, you go to patreasury.gov, but that's what the Post-Gazette's, seems like much of the front section, that's what it is, okay? So, I'm not in any, I'm not getting any, but I thought you should know if you didn't know. There's also something else I want to say about the Post-Gazette today, and I'm really, I'm just, I got mad, and then I just got puzzled. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did not Hillary Clinton yesterday give a pretty important speech, a foreign policy speech, in which she, for the first time, just zeroed in on the guy she's running against, not Bernie Sanders, the other one, Donald Trump, and for the first time, mockingly, and just took him down. I looked. There is. There's a picture of her. And it says, with less than a week to go before the California primary, Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State, prepares to deliver a national security address. That's the coverage. A picture taken before she gave the speech, which is on the front page of every other newspaper I looked at. What the hell? However, Ryan's endorsement of Trump is front page, and then takes up all of this under Hillary's laughing face, and this is all about Trump, and what the hell? And sort of in the Trump story, they get around to Hillary's speech. So there's no headline saying we have any information whatsoever other than she gave it. But way down at the bottom of the Trump article, it says this. I mean, this is after all this Trump coverage. Down here it says, Mr. Ryan's announcement came as Ms. Clinton assailed Mr. Trump as a potential president who could lead America toward war and economic crisis. And then they give a few lines. And that's it. Hey guys, that was a major address. What the fuck is going on over there? I mean it. I so often look at the PG now and I just want, WTF, WTF, WTF. What the fuck? It's front page Wall Street Journal. It's front page New York Times. Although I can't find it. Why do I always not bring what I think I'm bringing in? Dang it. I mean, she eviscerated him in this speech. It was flat out called him unfit. Her campaign billed it as a major foreign policy address, and your local liberal newspaper didn't cover it. I listened to some of it live. I thought what I heard was pretty damn good. And she said, and what's funny is I was looking at my Twitter, I was looking at my Twitter feed, and Trump had tweeted this. As a matter of fact, I tweeted something to him. I respond to him. He definitely brings out the best in everybody. So there I am, writing, "You tiny fingered, pathetic little loser." What is turning me into one of those internet jerks? So she's giving the speech, and he's watching it, and he's tweeting, "Here's your next possible president. Crooked Hillary Clinton, reading poorly from the teleprompter!" Exclamation point. She doesn't even look presidential. It's like these... It's so childish. It's so childish that it takes my breath away. And so I'm listening to part of the speech. It's being carried. And she says, "I imagine Mr. Trump is right now composing nasty tweets." And he was. He was, and there were more to come. And then she said things like, okay, so imagine if he had not just his Twitter account at his disposal when he's angry, but the entire American arsenal. This speech, according to the New York Times, was like 10 days in the making. I mean, they really worked on this because they're very aware that it's hard. He's a hard target to get anything to stick to, and tone is important and all of that. So she was very evenly spoken, but then I thought she did good. I did. She said things like, she talked about his bizarre fascination with dictators and strongmen, and she said, "I'll leave it to the psychiatrists to explain his affection for tyrants." She said he has said that he would order our military to carry out torture and the murder of civilians who are related to suspected terrorists, even though those are war crimes. He says he doesn't have to listen to our generals or our admirals, our ambassadors, or other high-level officials because he has, quote, "a very good brain." He also said, this is again from her speech, "I know more about ISIS than the generals do, believe me." And she responded to that with, "You know what? I don't believe him." It's so ludicrous. I mean, she says all his ideas are just a bunch of diatribes and disconnected rants and lies. She said that his suggestion that Japan should acquire nuclear weapons to deter North Korea, and that maybe Syria should be a fire-free zone for ISIS. Just give it to them. She said it's so unbelievable. And it is. I just can't believe that the American people are going to be able to avoid reality for 6 months. I can't believe it. So anyway, if you just read the Post-Gazette, you won't. You would not be informed about that. Hey. Nobody wants to talk to me today, huh? You won't take pity on the poor... Apparently not. Okay. So, Trump's latest, perhaps you heard, is he is now charging that the federal judge who is in charge of his, the civil case against Trump University, he has now flat out said that the judge has an absolute conflict and so should not be allowed to hear the case. And you know what the absolute conflict is? He's a Mexican. Now, let's insert reality here, okay? The judge's parents were Mexican. The judge was born in Indiana and is an American. Donald Trump, like a lot of other people, doesn't get that Americans come in all flavors, colors, ethnicities. There was, I think, a letter to the editor in the New York Times today, or maybe it was the local paper, I don't know, in which a woman who must be Asian, she's Asian, said that she's an American citizen. But she said she was sitting in her car in a parking lot somewhere, and her window was down, and she said some guy just stuck his face in her car and said, "Do you have a green card?" And her letter was saying, do you realize what Donald Trump has unleashed on all of us Americans who do not look like some Americans think Americans are supposed to look? In other words, white. Or, yes, even black. We acknowledge, a lot of black people here, but Asian? No. Mexican? No. So even if, and I mean, anyone will tell you who is of Asian extraction, and if they ethnically look different, and their family has been here for 3-4 generations, they will tell you it is not an unusual occurrence for an American, not necessarily a bigot, but an idiot, to say to them, "And where do you come from?" And they don't mean, Pittsburgh. Americans are not all white. A matter of fact, a ton of them aren't. And they're as American as you are. So these same people who look at every Asian, every, South American, and see somehow a threat, are looking at fellow Americans, generally, mostly. You think any of those Americans are voting for Donald Trump? I doubt it. So, Trump has actually now said that because Trump is on record as, saying things about Mexicans, and this judge is, as far as he can tell, a Mexican, then he shouldn't be able to hear his case. So because Trump is a bigot, a judge of the ethnicity he is bigoted against should not be able to hear his case. Are you effing kidding me? This is the guy some Americans want to be president of the United States. He said, quote, "I'm building a wall. It's an inherent conflict of interest." Can we imagine what this campaign is going to be like? And I have to tell you, it was Mike in Philly who emailed us yesterday. And he's the one who floated the idea that Trump will pull out, right? Wasn't he the one who did it? I can't remember. That Trump is starting to get out, that he's not going to be the nominee because he's starting to see that he can't do this. He's starting to imagine his whole empire collapsing around him. He's trying to get his head around that he could lose to crooked Hillary, and that his final big stage performance will be of a loser, which for an egomaniac is unbearable. So I have to admit that ever since that thought was put in my head, I've been turning it over and over and over and thinking, oh my God, he might pull out. What do you think? And I don't even know if I want him to. I'm thinking, no, don't, because the more I see of him as we're turning to a general election, the more I think there's no way. And this is because I still have faith in Americans. I do. There's no way America will elect this man. No way. The lunatic Republicans are the only ones who have elected him thus far, yes, and some independents and some Democrats who really aren't Democrats. They're just Democrats because they used to belong to labor unions, and their daddy was a Democrat and their grandfather was a Democrat. But in fact, what they are is bigots. Caller, hello.
Hello, Lynn.
Yes.
Don't you think both sides, Democrats and the Republicans, take it to extreme? You have Donald Trump with one idea to the extreme, and then you got the left, Democrats go the other way, where somewhere in the middle would be better.
Well, that's where most Americans are.
I mean, to leave borders open and let just everybody come in is crazy. There should be some kind of control.
We don't have open borders.
Well, we do have a lot coming in. You got to admit, in a year's time, there's a lot of people.
My understanding is the flow of illegal immigrants to this country under Obama has slowed, and in fact, he has deported more people than George W. Bush ever did.
Mm-hmm. But still, there's still a lot coming in.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm not saying nothing about it. I just think on anything, if you don't have any like checks and balances, and you're just going to have it run amok. I mean, it's just craziness. It's on anything. Like, look at the free trade. Just anything. If you don't have any, and that's what we don't have. I mean, it is tightening up. Obama's doing it better. And I think Donald Trump's nuts. I mean, you can't let all those people go back to where they came from. That'd be a mess. But I think we should have had control. But I think we're too late now. I think it's way beyond, My
understanding is the number of Mexicans who are coming to this country is at a really low point.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. If you look at the facts,
we're getting?
Well, it could be the jobs are drying up. Also, the enforcement has been pretty stringent, frankly.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, before that, how many people do you think was coming across in a year? Did you ever get any?
No, I wasn't sure of numbers, but quite clearly we know
come up with
there are millions of undocumented people in this
It
country.
must have been big time coming across. But I mean, nothing you can do now. You let it go. Like
But that's been happening under Republican administrations, and
both
yeah,
sides.
right. So,
I just think
and
we
you know
should have
what?
something.
Our economy relied on that cheap labor,
Yeah.
which is why they were looking the other way.
Yeah, that's the problem. You can't change it. And I'm not against anybody coming over. I don't care. It's just there should be some kind of checks. But
Yeah.
like everything else, it's screwed up like they always do. So what are you going to do? But
I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
Hang in
He's a
there.
nutcase when it comes to that. I mean, building that wall and all that, I don't know. That's never going to happen anyway. They're not going to authorize that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you for the
Okay,
call.
thank you.
Yeah, bye.
bye.
Roger writes, friends of ours are of different descent. The wife is traditional Anglo-Saxon. In other words, she looks like an American. The husband is Indian, Asian, and is dark-skinned. Their daughter inherited dad's skin color. While shopping, the wife was asked by a saleswoman, "Where did you get that beautiful baby?" And having been asked this question before she had the answer, she said, "My womb." People, my womb. They saw a white woman and a black baby, and they their heads don't go. And I'm not saying, they're just people who haven't caught up to reality. Americans are a polyglot nation. We always have been. It's what makes us great. It's what always has made us great. That we're a mutt. We're mutts. And anyone knows mutts are better than pure breeds. Pure breeds, inbred. Boring. It's the mutts that are the smartest. Tell me they aren't. Mutts are. Okay. I really am disappointed in Ryan and his endorsement, but he'll live to regret it, I'll tell you that. Because he's an ambitious man. And he sees himself in the White House. And he's got plenty of time to wait for the right time. And this will be a true blot on his record and judgment. Who, I forgot who, somebody, it was Mike from the Cynics suggested that Hillary call Trump, what was it? Something about, I'm sorry because I ended up dumping it. But that if he keeps saying crooked Hillary, dishonest Donald. But you know what? I said that to somebody else, and he said, no, she shouldn't. She shouldn't. Don't go there. Don't go to his. As soon as he lures you into playing in the wrestling ring that he is at home in, you're undone, because that's not your environment. You don't know the rules or the moves, or that's where he's a master. So you don't want to meet him on his turf. Chuck writes, I listened to most of Hillary's speech. In my opinion, she was at her best. The words were perfectly chosen. Well, they said they worked on it for 10 days, and a number of speechwriter types had at it, including a final edit from Obama's great speechwriter, who used to be his great speechwriter, but isn't anymore, and I'm blanking on his name. Her words were perfectly chosen, and her delivery, yes, was on the mark. I wish her delivery of her stump speeches were as good as this one. After the speech, I switched over to Fox. Oddly, they had minor praise for her speech, saying it was her best ever. Of course, they didn't agree with the content, and they reverted to their standard talking points. Benghazi, emails, Benghazi, email, Benghazi, email, Benghazi, blue dresses, semen, email, Benghazi. So. Okay, Margie thinks Trump's imploding. I don't know. None of us know anything anymore. Wow. So, what else is happening? I'll tell you what's happening. I got 15 minutes. I got to think of something. So the other day, and we didn't talk about this, Obama, I don't know if it was it's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That is a new agency that came about as a result of the implosion, the housing bubble, the near depression, the whole thing that the moneyed guys, the Wall Street guys, and the real estate folks had brought us. And this was Elizabeth Warren's baby, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It is a watchdog agency supposed to be looking after the interests of we little people. And what it has done is put out new guidelines about these same-day payday lenders. You know what those things are? If you don't, you're lucky. If you do know what they are, and if you've had to use them, I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry for you. You find them in poorer neighborhoods. And what it is a person gets their paycheck, and then they go over to one of these, get a loan immediately, payday loans. And they borrow money against that check. And usually are expected to pay it back within 2 weeks. And you can only imagine what the interest is, right? A customer who, let's say, borrows $500 from one of these wonderful places would owe about $575 in just 2 weeks. It's an interest rate of 391%, according to this. Annual percentage rate of 391%. But most borrowers who get into this, of course, cannot pay it back. So they just roll over the loan into a new one, and it just means their debt grows and grows and grows. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has said we have got to come out with new rules about how many times a person can roll over that loan, and also to bring the interest rates down. There are some 16,000 lenders. Some states do not allow this. We do. Some states do not allow it, and they have their own rate caps, but the market is flourishing in the majority of the country. And preying on, of course, desperate, poor people. And the Wall Street Journal today reacted to this with a big editorial about how, here we go, Obama trying to destroy another American industry. American industry. That's what American industry is now. Do you remember when it used to be steal. American industry is now fleecing poor people. Amazing. And it's decried. It's overreach. It's an outrage. Henry writes, I see that Gary Johnson, the Libertarian presidential candidate, is now polling around 12%. He would need 15% to be included in the debates. He's starting to generate some noise, so I'm wondering if he will play the role of spoiler or kingmaker. I don't know how that would play out. He'd give cover for a lot of people who, don't want to vote for either. I don't know who that would hurt most. Who do you think? I don't know. I do not know. Generally, Republicans have a lot more in common with libertarians, but I don't know. Yeah, Noreena's saying Bob Kerry's girlfriend was Deborah Winger. Yeah, I thought of it in the middle of my, Deborah Winger, who I suppose a lot of young... Do you even know who Deborah Winger is? See, Celine doesn't even know who that is. What was I think her most famous role to me was Shirley MacLaine's daughter in Terms of Endearment, which is a hell of a great movie. Did you see it? She's the one who dies. Okay. That's Deborah Winger, isn't it? Yeah. That's Deborah Winger. And I don't know what's happened to her, though. You don't see her much. She was a very good actress. Excellent actress. There was another, information can be so disquieting. Anyway, I guess this shouldn't surprise any of us, but wealthy people who run afoul of the law have a much easier ride through the justice system than a poor person. Now, what I just said is of no surprise to anybody. You knew that. And we're used to seeing it in a lot of different ways. I mean, if only that they can afford the best defense that money can buy. While a poor person, they're even lucky if they get a public defender these days, who might have 20,000 other cases and doesn't even meet the person they're defending until 2 seconds before they have to defend them. That ain't equal justice under the law, which is supposedly what America is all about. But here's a new wrinkle. It turns out that, and what's interesting is in both these cases I'm going to tell you about, they're foreign people, foreign billionaires who get arrested here. And they are used to dealing with the justice systems in their country, which means they pay their way out. But of course, you can't do that here. Well, sorta. So here's a guy named Reza Zareb. He's a gold trader, a Turk. And he got himself arrested when he stepped foot in the U.S., taking his kids to Disney World or something. He's richer than heck. And he was grabbed and facing federal charges that could put him in prison for some time. And his attorney said to the judge, look, he does not need to be jailed, because here's what he's willing to do. Even before you set the bond, Your Honor, my client is willing to post a $50 million bond secured by $10 million in cash He will stay in an apartment in Manhattan. He will wear a GPS monitoring device, and he will pay for 24-hour guards to ensure that he will not leave the apartment and to escort him to and from the courthouse. Now, the judge was supposed to take this offer up yesterday. I have not seen anything about it. But a regular, ordinary human being cannot make such offers. And that just destroys our bragging rights to suggest that our justice system is about equal justice. It ain't in any way. So increasingly wealthy, very wealthy defendants, particularly foreign wealthy defendants, because that's the game they know, are testing our courts by proposing to live in their self-financed, gilded cages while they await their trials. You see, these people would be considered, would they not, a real threat to flee, which is why when somebody is denied bail and stuck in jail, even though they haven't been convicted yet, it's because the court has a reasonable suspicion that they're going to take off. And if you've got tens of millions and billions of dollars at your disposal, that's a pretty... The odds are, yeah, you can assume that, and they would have the ability to do that. So maybe more than any, they should be stuck in stir from day one. But just last October, a Chinese billionaire indicted on bribery charges that he was bribing the United Nations, the president of the United Nations General Assembly. He was granted bond of $50 million secured by $20 million in cash. And he stayed in a midtown apartment, confined and subject to GPS monitoring and round-the-clock guards at his own expense. So that guy did get to do what this Turk now is trying to do. Joe Schmo, forget about it. Despicable. William writes, I will always recall Shirley MacLaine accepting her Oscar for that. She got an Oscar for that role. Yeah, she should have. Her Oscar, and praising Deborah Winger for her, and this is her quote, for her turbulent brilliance. Wow. That's a great cast. Was that not a great cast? Jeez. I thought Jack Nicholson was incredible in that movie too. As the rowdy, womanizing former astronaut who lives next door. Shirley MacLaine, and and Winger's husband, played by what's his name, was so vile. Was the vilest human being in the universe. What's his name? The guy from the newsroom. God dang it. Come on. He's from Michigan. He played the guy in the newsroom. That HBO maybe series. Yeah? All right, forget it. Names. They escape me. They do. Okay, I think that's it from... I don't have... unless am I forgetting something I'm supposed to be talking about here? I don't think so. I do not think so. So I'm sort of done. I hope our audio is calming down a little bit. It ain't ever going to be perfect because we just don't have that great a system here. But, I appreciate your feedback, and will continue to appreciate your feedback. And I hope you have a great weekend. And I guess I'll see you guys again on Monday. Okay? Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.